Hey guys, welcome back to Brain Sprain. I'm going to be doing a code walkthrough here on a project I made for the same friend that wanted the uh, weather data gatherer, and this time he wanted an NBA stats recorder because he's writing articles for a company that needs the stats to look at. So if you noticed last time, if you watched my last video, it took me about 3 hours to make uh, the weather collector. This one only took me about an hour and a half, which was much better, but I didn't record it while I was making it because I still didn't want to have to trim down an hour and a half video to make it only 20 minutes. It seemed like a waste of time. So this time I want to see if just walking through the code is any easier and possibly help you guys follow along better because I can narrate it as I go through. It uses BeautifulSoup along with some system packages just to keep it moving, and the requests library a bit. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I did get a request to go through BeautifulSoup and how it works, so I'm going to take some time to do that and hopefully explain how that works in the background, because it really isn't a front-end type package. It does a much better job of collecting information and formatting it in a way that we can use it. So I'd like to explain that a little bit, hopefully make it make sense. So with that, I'm going to get moving. We'll get my face out of the way for you. And this is the original file I made, and it does it all on its own. So like I said, my goal was to make an automated stats collector for any given NBA team from this site because it did a really great job of laying out the HTML tables in a way that I could work with it. It made it a lot easier. And then the output was going to be a CSV, comma separated values for individual game stats per player on that team for any given season. And then there wasn't anything officially needed, but my friend just said he wanted as much as possible without overworking myself, so I think I did a pretty good job of finding it. And then this is the after action report I made once I was done. So with that, the imports that we need are a bunch of different packages, but really the biggest one is this BeautifulSoup package, as I'll explain in a bit. And then I put in some try-catch work here. And this is all on my GitHub, by the way, so if I'm going too fast, feel free to check it out on my GitHub to just walk through a little bit easier. And I'm going to walk through this a little more in depth soon, but I just want to give you a brief overview of what I did. The only method I made was a make CSV. This takes an individual player's URL and that player's name and season that we're looking for, and also the folder we're going to store it in. And it analyzes that HTML, uses BeautifulSoup to parse it and format it all the way we need it, and then find the table we're looking for to write every line to a CSV. And it's pretty straightforward other than that. And then I did some nice looking front end stuff, explained what the file does and how to work with it. My particular friend is working on the Philadelphia Sixers stuff, so I made it automatically assume the current year and for the Philadelphia Sixers if you didn't put any input in, but you can easily change that in the command line. And then I looked for the team's website on the basketball reference site and just created the folder if it was able to find it. If not, it exited and told you to try again, basically. Okay, so the first thing it does is it browses to this website and collects all this information, puts it in soup. What we can do is run the file, and I pulled up a walkthrough file here. I'm gonna use that in a second. I'll show you how this all gets written. The next thing it does is it searches through all of this HTML and finds the table that has the ID roster. I can do a Control F here and type in roster. We'll see how many results there are there. Not a lot. Okay, let's just enter through here until we find it. Okay, here we go. Nope, that's not it. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So this is a table that it found with the ID roster. And then the next step it takes is to find the, oh, and yeah, okay, it's going to take the first table with the ID roster, and that's going to be this one because we're near the top of uh, the the HTML itself. And then it's going to find every row within that roster table that has the tag TR, which is this guy right here. And within that tag, it has a bunch of table headers, and then all of the rows within that with the actual data. So it collected all that information. The reason I needed to do that was because all of these guys over here, this is the important information right here. We have a bunch of hrefs, which are references to other websites, and the player names. That's important because we're going to go throughout all of these rows of data, and we're going to take all of the tags with A's. A tags has href and the actual text value for it. We're going to take all of those players and send the href without the last 5 characters, which is .html. We don't want to send that. And along with the season, the text for that A tag, which is the player name, and the folder name we're going to write to. This is the full URL for the player that we're going to analyze, because the game log folder for that URL shows us all the stats we need in order to record it to the CSV file, and then the season obviously is the season we're looking for. And then that sends it all to the method we made in the beginning, make CSV, and then we start our for loop in here. Actually, we're going to open the file, and then we need to gather the information first. But we do the same process here by opening the URL, sending all of the HTML to a soup variable, finding the table. This time the ID is PGL basic, and I can show you that here. This is an example of a player that we need, Jonah Bolden, and I can find the table PGL basic. Awesome, this is pulled up right away. So the table with the ID PGL basic is what we're looking for. And then we're going to find all of we're taking the first one again. We're finding all the rows that have the TR tag, which are right here and right here. This is all the data we need. These are all the headers, and then all of the data we need is right here. And then we're sending all of that row by row and cell by cell to the CSV file that we're writing. And just to give you a walkthrough of what's happening there, I wrote up, this is the same exact file, except I made a bunch of pauses, as you can see right here. Yes. Each time I do something, I pause and I write it to a file. Soup, table, and rows, these are the same variables that we wrote. So I'm going to pull that up real quick. Clear this. Oh, come on, there we go. So we're going to run the walkthrough file. And we're going to assume Philadelphia, so enter nothing, and we're going to assume the current season, so enter nothing. Where it's telling us that it's going to gather states for Philadelphia, or stats for Philadelphia, and from the 2019 to 20 season. It found the website, which is good, so it created the folder, but it already exists, so it didn't need to create it. Now it's saying it wrote soup. So that's this file right here, and if I pull up the team's website, you'll see that they're the same exact thing. This is the team, this is the HTML for the team. I'm going to grab this and pull it all the way up. It's the same exact data. Our header here is doc type HTML, and then all of this information is the same. All right. HTML class, no, yeah, here we go. All the stuff is the same. All right, so let's pull our PowerShell back up. We wrote soup, and now we wrote table. The first data we see in table is the ID roster. So we're going to go back over here, and I'm going to do a Control F for roster again. Find our roster table, which is down a bit. down quite a bit actually. Okay, here we go. So it's over here. Table class, sortable stats table, ID roster. Table class, sortable stats table, ID roster. All right. And then all of the labels that we needed. This is pretty weird to read, but it's all the information we need. So you can see that we're kind of drilling down to the information we actually need with BeautifulSoup, and that's the part it does really well. Let's pull up PowerShell again. Now it wrote the rows. So we have our rows over here. And this is, again, more specific information, like I said. It drilled down into the table class, found the headers and the actual rows of data. And that's what this file has. Uniform number, player, position, height, all of this stuff. And then this is the actual data for each player on the team and what their uniform number, player, position, height is, and so on. If we keep going through the PowerShell prompt, I built this to print out. For those that might have been confused on what this particular line means, this is taking the beginning URL, which I wrote out here, adding on the href tag from the player, which is this. This right here is printing the href tag, the entire thing. And then, but this part, this colon -5 is taking off the last 5 characters, which is .html, and tagging on that bit right there. This is because the URL wouldn't look right if we didn't, or if we kept the HTML there. And then it tags on /gamelog/season to the rest of the URL. That's the complete URL we need to get. I'll show you right here. This is where we end up. So we have our player, basically abbreviation here because this is how the website handles it, /gamelog/season, which is 2020. And then our method takes, so that's the whole URL. Our method also takes the player name, which is a.text, the season, and the folder name. And it just does a for loop through all of that. And then I added on some more narration in our method here. So if you hop back over to this guy, we can continue. So it's saying it wrote soup for Jonah Bolden. So if we go back to our soup file, now we have all of the HTML text for Jonah Bolden here, which is this guy up here. As you can see, the content 2019 to 20 game logs for Jonah Bolden. If we go back to our PowerShell and enter again, now it's saying it wrote the table for Jonah Bolden. The ID for this table is PGL Basic. So if you hop back over here and do a Control F for PGL Basic, pops on over, we have a table class again and a PGL Basic. More headers and more data, so now we need to drill down into that, and we do that just by writing rows for Jonah Bolden. Right here, now we have all of that data for Jonah Bolden. And again, this is all stored in soup, table, and rows. And then once we have that done, we open up a new CSV, given our folder name, player, and season, to throw in a .csv there, and write all of that data in per row and per cell in that row, given the TD and TH tags. And all we need is the text from it. And I think I actually print out, yeah, I print out what each cell is in there. So we start at the headers here with the rank, season, game, date, all of that. If we drill down through each of the cells here, we'll eventually get to some data. There's a lot of cells. Okay, so here, for example, we have the data stat is the date of the game. We have an href tag for that, but we also have the text of it. So the first game that Jonah Bolden played in for the 2019 to 20 season was October 23rd. And we can continue to get some more data. This was his age at the time, 23, and I'm guessing that's 294 days. And so on. Those are each of the cells of the HTML table for Jonah Bolden for the 2019 to 20 season. And if you want to clean that up, we'll cancel this. If you clean it up nice and well and take out all the pauses and run the whole thing, the way it's working is it's going to write all of these to a folder that we created. It's also going to iterate through each of the player names as it goes, and these all show up in a local folder called Philadelphia Stats. And I already wrote all of these files, so they exist already, but I also ran it for multiple seasons. But anyway, this is how they're written, and you can check out the CSV files themselves by looking at the headers and then each of the dates for, or data pieces for each cell. This can open up in Microsoft Excel or whatever data viewer you'd like to use, but it works just fine. Yeah, so I hope that gave you more of a in-depth look at BeautifulSoup and how it works. It's not a front-end thing. As much as it might sound, BeautifulSoup, it's not a front-end thing. It works in the background, it formats data, and allows you to extract that in a way that you want to use it, and then you can display it however you'd like. Alrighty. Again, check out my GitHub if you'd like to look at it further. Offer maybe faster ways to do it, or if you have a different idea on a way that might work better, let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.